Now, let me tell you something. When I have used this in the past, y'all, and I'm not going to deviate. I want to so bad, but I'm not going to deviate because I want to show you how easy this is. Even when I have used this roux in the jar, because this is the fat and the flour, I use it just like I would if I had made my own roux. I put the fat and the flour in the pot like you do gravy. You wait till it heats up. No liquid, and then I like to put my... Hey y'all, I was supposed to have a meetup with my young cousins in Louisiana to teach them a form of gumbo, and I was going to call it Cousins Gumbo. We didn't get the chance to do that, so I'm recording it on YouTube so that they'll see it as well as the rest of the world, because the intent is for them to just take the basis, the premises of what I demonstrate with this jarred roux, and then after making it several times, they can make it their own. So hopefully you will too. All right, y'all, so the cabbage are done. I will show you this shortly after I make some space on the memory, but I'm hoping that I could get this in really quickly. I really need to start this gumbo before I take my first break. I am making gumbo from this jarred roux. This is my personal favorite right now out of the ones I've tried. You can see it's Savoy's. Now, honestly, I'm not a fan of their sausage, their smoked sausage, but I do like their boudin. However, this is their jarred roux. I'm a light roux girl, and so this does come in dark as well. For Thanksgiving, my cousins and I were going to meet up and record me teaching them how to make gumbo. And of course, to make it as simple as possible, we were going to start with a jarred roux version. Just FYI, for a personal tip, they do also make dry roux, y'all, that is strictly powder. And quite honestly, I think that's easier for people who are trying to make gumbo for the very first time, especially if they're a little timid about it, because the dry roux to me has a little seasoning in it, like you have a little filet and things like that. Because my mom has used it before and she can make that dry roux where it's delicious. I prefer the jar, but the downside to this is that there is no seasoning. This is literally just roux in a jar. This is flour and fat cooked to the consistency that Savoy thinks is best. So I want to start this pot of gumbo and be able to show y'all before I stop and take a break. Okay, so that's what we're on. Okay, so like I've said before, now hopefully everyone understands that you should always inspect your labels to see if there is a recipe. Start with it, and if you don't love it, you can alter it, but start with what they tell you to do. On this side is their authentic tasso sausage and chicken. On this side is how you use it to make seafood. 6 to 8 servings. And so this jar will take you a long way, because you can see for chicken and sausage, it tells you 4 quarts of water, 4 heaping tablespoons of the roux, and for seafood, 3 quarts of water and 4 heaping tablespoons. The reason would be is because seafood cooks quicker, and this recipe is written with the intent of you using raw poultry. Where is it? It says duck on here somewhere. Oh my goodness, right here, hen. A large hen cut up and seasoned. So this is intended to be raw poultry, which is why you have an extra quart of water so that you can continue to cook this pot of gumbo until that hen is done. However, on this side, you just have seafood, and we all know seafood cooks really quickly, so that would explain why it is 1 quart less. The reason why I'm going to go with the recommendations on the seafood side, even though we're doing chicken and sausage, is because my chicken is already done, and then of course the sausage is cured. So we're going to do the 3 quarts of water. I'm just going to show you how, if I follow this exactly. Normally when I'm doing it on my own, I don't, but I'm interested to see if I follow this exactly. I'm going to tell you what it tastes like. I already know I'm going to add more seasoning in it and things like that, but I have plenty of onion and bell pepper cut up, and so we're about to get to it. Now, let me tell you something. When I have used this in the past, y'all, and I'm not going to deviate because I want to show you how easy this is. Even when I have used this roux in the jar, because this is the fat and the flour, I use it just like I would if I had made my own roux. I put the fat and the flour in the pot like you do gravy. You wait till it heats up, no liquid. And then I like to put my vegetables right inside that fat and that flour because it starts to fry. Okay, but since this says, I'm sorry, my battery went low and the light went off, but this tells you to go ahead and dissolve the roux. It's telling you to just measure out your heaping tablespoons and dissolve that roux in the water for 30 minutes, a half an hour. And then to not add your vegetables until after that. So I'm going to do just that so y'all can see how it looks. All right, y'all. So here we are. I'm going to use a more shallow pot. 6 to 8 servings is perfect for us. You can see that the oil sometimes separate from the flour. See it there? Hopefully you can see it there. So when I dig in for my 4 tablespoons, I want to make sure I have both oil and flour. I want to deviate and fry my vegetables so bad, but, and it's so weird because when I do my beans, I like to be able to put them in straight in the liquid. So we'll see how this turns out, and I'm sure it's going to be wonderful. These people are the makers of the roux. Let me get the roux. Right, we're back, y'all. I have my fire on medium. See how that looks? It's a beautiful color. I love the light roux. And we're doing 4 heaping tablespoons. It's going to end up being about half the jar. Making sure I get some oil as well since it's separated. The dark roux just has, it's too bitter for me. To me, I equate it to like when drinking coffee. Dark roux is not nasty, but I just don't like that extra taste. This is the 4 heaping tablespoons of roux. And as you can see, I made sure I had oil too. When you finish doing 4 heaping tablespoons, it ends up being a little more than half the jar. So what you're going to do is we're going to let this kind of melt down. And then we're going to add in 4 quarts of water. But I already have chicken stock because y'all know I make my chicken stock out of chicken, or whenever I have rotisserie, I freeze it and make chicken stock. So 4 quarts. Okay, so you put this over a low heat, and as you can see, it's going to start to melt. Don't put your water or your broth in before this melts, because then it'll just clump up. So we're waiting on it to melt. We have it on a low heat, not high heat, because if you put it on high heat, it'll start frying. So you want it to kind of soften up. I want you to see the consistency. Okay, so you can see now it's all looking about like caramel. You want it darker than butterscotch. Even if you're making your own roux, you want it darker than butterscotch, but not too dark, not much more dark than a good rich caramel. And now it's smooth. I'm pressing it with the back of the spoon, and it's smooth. So we're about to start going in with the chicken broth. I don't have to keep wasting water. Okay, so this is my chicken stock, and so I'm doing 16 cups to make a quart. That's 4. My pan may not be big enough. I want to switch to this chicken broth because it came from smoked chicken. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12. And this, I have room for one more, so this is like 13. So technically, we still have room for 3 more cups of water, but not really, because one of the stocks I was using was kind of congealed. So that's going to accommodate for more. I would say, quite honestly, with the amount of roux that we have put in here, we can afford to add like maybe 1.5 more cups of chicken stock. But I'm going to leave it as is and see how it cooks down. Let it come to a simmer. Because we can always add in more water, but we don't want to have to get to a point where we're trying to boil too much liquid out. Okay, so you saw it here first, folks. I'm going to go back and look at the measurements on the veggies, how many veggies they want. And we'll come back and add those veggies in. Okay, y'all, this is what it's looking like. It's been a little more than 30 minutes, but I was doing other things. However, I didn't have the fire turned up a lot at first, but you can see the beautiful color, and it's going to continue to turn just a little. It basically says 1 full onion, 1 full bell pepper, celery, green onion. So I don't have celery, but I do have some celery seed. But I'm putting the vegetables in now, going directly by what's on the jar, seasonings and all. We're gonna see how this turns out. It tells you to put the meat in there as well. So I'm gonna get the sausage and chicken out the fridge. The clock has officially struck 12, honey. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year's. It is officially 2024. Unbelievable. I could say so much, but I did just want to come on and say Happy New Year. So, we still cooking, y'all. Got this pound cake fresh out the oven. And then I have to do whole chicken. They have been put in the brine. And a gumbo. I have pastilla sauce. And waiting on our seafood. The girls and I are gonna have seafood. So Happy New Year, y'all. Keep going. Y'all, I have to say the gumbo is tasting a bit impressive. It really is. Now, true enough, the only thing is, remember, I had, excuse my head, y'all. I used broth. I used real broth that I already had. I mean, all you're going to have to do is add seasoning. Too much of this, not enough of that. You really can't tell what went wrong, where you went wrong. So put in one seasoning at a time and taste it along the way. And don't forget that gumbo filet. Oh, yeah. It tells you to add a bay leaf and garlic. I don't think I've squeezed any garlic in here yet. But I am going to. These are the cloves. Sometimes I buy the cloves like this too, whole and vacuum sealed. But I'm going in with my garlic. I've never made it according to the instructions until tonight, and now I see it actually works. So I did it so y'all can see it works, and it does. I'm going to show you the texture. I don't think it calls for paprika, but I just love the smoked paprika and everything, so I'm putting the paprika. Y'all, how much is left? Remember I said it's a little more than half. I guess you would say a third. But anyway, we did onion, bell pepper, garlic. We're going to do celery seed. Oh, I have to. So don't use water. Use chicken stock in the box if you have to, but just don't use water. Get you some Maggi Pollo. You need this anyway. Normally comes in a bottle. I start buying it in the bag. This is less than $8. So I had homemade broth. Besides that, of course, you know, you let it simmer. The longer it simmers, the better those flavors are gonna develop and come together. So see, nothing else is in the pot, so I've never added the meat or anything, but it's already been simmering for an hour. And that's what you will want to do. I will tell you this tip: don't put your meat in there too soon. You know, the longer it simmers, the better it's gonna taste. Don't put your meat in there early, even if you plan to let it simmer longer, because it will dry your meat out. That hot broth will draw all of the moisture out of the actual meat. So Cousin's Gumbo, y'all. Cousin's Gumbo. Oh, yeah. And this is the seafood. I just got out the fridge, so I'm going to add some of that into this pot, as well as some okra. Lastly, y'all, you probably remember on I think it was my Great Northern Beans video, I boiled the whole okra separate in a separate boiler so some of the slime could come off, and then I incorporated the okra in the pot. Well, when it's the cut okra like this, and you're not using a lot, you can just simply wait until like the food is done. Like at this point, the gumbo is done, right? But it's still very hot. So I treat the okra like shrimp.